Here is a clean, emotional, approximately 1,000-word, fast-paced, simple English, story-only expansion of Part 1. No repetition, no explicit content. YouTube safe. Part 1. The Secret Everyone Saw Coming, 1,000 words. Claire Reynolds lived a quiet life in Chicago, the kind of life people called stable. She worked as a graphic designer in a small marketing office, walked to work every morning with a warm coffee in her hands, and always came home to the same soft apartment lights and gentle music. Her boyfriend, Ethan, often joined her for dinner, bringing flowers or small surprises that made most people say, "You're lucky to have him." And Claire knew that. Ethan was kind. He was thoughtful. He was steady. Anyone watching from outside would think she was already living her happy ending. But inside, something didn't feel complete. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was quiet, like a soft space inside her chest that never fully filled. She didn't talk about it. She didn't even admit it to herself. She simply smiled, went on with her routine, and hoped the feeling would fade on its own. It never did. One Friday evening, Ethan invited Claire to a small rooftop cafe downtown. The air was warm, hanging lights stretched across the deck, and soft music played under the city's buzz. Claire expected a normal night, food, drinks, and gentle conversation. She didn't expect Ethan's best friend, Lucas, to be there. Lucas was nothing like Ethan, where Ethan was calm and careful with every word. Lucas laughed loudly and didn't hide anything he felt. He worked as a photographer, traveled constantly, and always had stories that sounded bigger than life. When he spoke, his eyes lit up. When he laughed, other people laughed too. And when he looked at Claire, she felt something move inside her, something that had been asleep for a long time. At first, she tried to ignore it. She talked only when spoken to, focused on her food, kept her eyes low. But Lucas noticed everything she did. He noticed when her smile was real and when it was forced. He noticed when her voice went soft. He noticed the small sadness she thought she was hiding. Ethan didn't notice anything as the night went on. Lucas asked questions Claire didn't expect. He didn't ask about her job or her weekend plans. He asked about her dreams, her art, her happiness. He wanted to know what inspired her, what scared her, what she truly wanted from life. No one had asked her those things in a long time. Not even Ethan. For a moment she forgot to hide. She forgot to smile politely. She spoke like herself, honest, open, alive. And Lucas listened with real attention, as if every word mattered. She felt seen, not as someone's girlfriend, not as a polite, quiet woman, just as Claire. Ethan watched them, smiling politely, but he didn't see what was happening underneath. He didn't see the way Claire's eyes warmed, the way her shoulders relaxed, or the way her voice changed. Lucas saw it all. Later, when Ethan went to pay the bill, Lucas leaned closer, not in a romantic way, but in a protective, concerned way. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. Claire froze. Her heart jumped. It felt like he had walked into her mind and read all the words she never said. She wanted to lie, say yes, laugh it off, blame work, blame the weather, blame anything except the truth. But her voice slipped out softer than she meant. "I don't know." Lucas didn't push. He didn't ask more. He just nodded, like he understood something she hadn't even explained. When Ethan returned, Lucas stayed quiet, but his eyes told her he wasn't fooled by her smile. And something inside Claire cracked, not in pain, but in recognition. Someone finally saw her heart. On the ride home, Ethan talked about work, weekend plans, small things that used to make Claire feel peaceful. Tonight, they felt heavy. She nodded and agreed, but her thoughts kept replaying the moment Lucas asked, "Are you okay?" She couldn't answer that question in her head either. When she got home, she stood in the dark for a long time before turning on the lights. Her apartment felt different, too quiet, too careful, too safe. She sat on the couch and tried to convince herself nothing had changed. But the truth was impossible to hide now. She wasn't unhappy with Ethan. He treated her gently. He cared. He listened to the stories she told, even if they were small. She appreciated him more than he would ever know. But appreciation wasn't the same as passion. Stability wasn't the same as connection. And for the first time in years, she had felt something awake inside her, something warm, something alive, something she didn't know was sleeping. It wasn't that she wanted to be with Lucas. She didn't even know what she wanted. She only knew that what she felt tonight was something she hadn't felt in a very long time. And that scared her more than anything. The next morning at work, she tried to focus. She answered emails, designed posters, smiled at her coworkers. But her mind didn't stay in the office. It kept drifting back to the rooftop, the city lights, and the quiet understanding in Lucas's eyes. She wondered how he saw it. She wondered how she didn't see it earlier, for years. She had believed that one kind of love was enough: steady love, responsible love, predictable love. But a small voice inside whispered that maybe she needed something more. Maybe she needed someone who sparked her soul, not just held her hand. Someone who saw her whole heart, not only the parts she made easy to love. That voice was getting louder. Days passed, and Claire tried to stay normal. She told herself she was just tired or stressed. But deep down, she knew the truth. One night changed everything. Not because of romance. Not because Lucas flirted. But because he saw her heart clearly. Something Ethan had stopped doing. She realized then that love wasn't disappearing. It was shifting. It was changing shape. And she didn't know what to do with it. That weekend, Claire and Ethan went out for coffee. He smiled, held her hand, told her he missed her. She smiled back, but her eyes were different. Ethan didn't see it. Or maybe he didn't want to, but Lucas did. From that point forward, every time Lucas entered the room, something silent and powerful happened. Claire felt her heart move. Ethan felt something he couldn't name. And Lucas watched them both with quiet, careful eyes. He knew Ethan didn't know yet. Claire was trying not to know, but the truth had already begun, and no one could stop it. That was the moment everything changed. 1,000 words. Story only, fast-paced, emotional, romantic. Mature, clean, no explicit scenes, safe for YouTube monetization. Relatable American characters. Would you like part 2, 1,000 words as well? Here is a clean, emotional, approximately 1,000-word, fast-paced, simple English expansion of part 2. No repetition, no explicit content, YouTube safe. Only story. Part 2. Hearts Don't Whisper Forever. 1,000 words after the rooftop night. Claire tried to go back to her normal life. She worked, cooked dinner, sent polite messages, and acted like everything was fine. But every morning, she woke up with a heavy chest she couldn't explain. Every night, she fell asleep, wondering why she couldn't just feel happy the way she used to. Ethan noticed her change. It wasn't dramatic, no arguments, no tears. Just small things. She was quieter. She smiled less. She drifted off in the middle of conversations. Her hug felt softer, like she was holding a memory instead of holding him. He didn't want to believe anything was wrong, so he pretended to. One cold Thursday evening, Ethan showed up at her apartment with groceries. He told her he wanted to cook dinner for her. Claire tried to smile, tried to feel warmth, tried to shake off the strange distance growing between them. They cooked together, just like always, cutting vegetables, boiling pasta, setting the table. But tonight, there was silence where laughter used to be. Claire kept looking at the door as if something or someone might appear. She didn't even know why. When they finally sat down, Ethan reached for her hand across the table. She didn't pull away, but her fingers didn't curl back around his. His heart sank, though he didn't show it. He gave her a soft smile. "Claire, is everything okay?" She nodded quickly, too quickly. "Just tired." He stared at her for a long moment. "You've been tired a lot lately." Claire dropped her gaze to her food. Her appetite was gone. Ethan set down his fork. "I don't want to pressure you, but something feels different." His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't jealous. It was gentle, almost calm, and that made it harder for Claire to speak. She didn't want to hurt him. She didn't want to break something that had once felt so safe. But hearts don't wait forever. Out of nowhere, tears filled her eyes. She tried to hide them, turning her face slightly away, but Ethan saw everything. He reached across the table, voice low. "Claire, talk to me." Her throat tightened. She couldn't form words. She felt like her honesty would destroy the one person who had always stood beside her. After a long silence, Ethan said something she never expected. "It's about Lucas, isn't it?" Her head snapped up. "No, Ethan. You don't have to lie," he said softly. "I saw the way he looked at you that night." Claire covered her mouth with her shaking hand. Ethan continued, voice steady but full of sadness. "And I saw the way you looked back." She couldn't breathe. She couldn't deny it. She also didn't want to confess it. The truth was too complicated, too painful, too real. "I care about you," she whispered. "I love what we have. I don't want to lose you." "I don't want to lose you either," Ethan replied. "But if your heart is somewhere else, you have to be honest with me." Claire stood up from the table and walked to the window. The city lights blurred through her tears. She wanted to erase these feelings, erase that night, erase the part of her heart that had woken up the moment Lucas looked into her eyes, but she couldn't. Ethan walked up behind her, but he didn't reach out. "I'm not angry," he said. "I'm hurt, but I'm not angry." Those words broke her. "I don't know what's happening," Claire admitted. "I don't know what I feel. I feel different. I feel confused." Ethan nodded slowly, accepting more than she said. "You used to look at me like I was enough. Lately, it feels like you're searching for something else." She closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I never meant to hurt you." I know," Ethan whispered. "You're not that kind of person." The room stayed quiet for a long time. The food grew cold. The candles burned low. Claire felt like the world was holding its breath. Then Ethan said something even heavier. "If your heart is divided, then we both deserve the truth." Her knees weakened. She leaned against the wall for support. She didn't want to break something pure. She didn't want to lose Ethan, but she also couldn't erase the feeling that someone else had touched a part of her soul she didn't even know was waiting. She turned around. "I don't love Lucas," she said honestly. "I don't even know what I feel about him." Ethan nodded, but something changed when he showed up. Claire's silence was the answer. After a moment, Ethan stepped back. "I think we need space. Not because I want to leave, but because I want your heart to be sure." Her chest tightened. She wanted to say no. She wanted to run back into his arms. But she also knew he was right. Holding on to him without certainty would be more painful than letting go. So she whispered, "'Kay." Ethan picked up his coat. He didn't slam the door or raise his voice. He just looked at her with the saddest, most gentle expression she had ever seen. "If we're meant to be, this won't end us," he said. "But I need you to find out what you really feel." He walked out quietly. The second the door closed, Claire dropped to the floor and cried, not because she wanted Lucas, but because she finally admitted she wasn't whole. For the first time in her life, she didn't have answers. 2 days later, Claire walked through the city streets with her hands buried in her coat pockets. Snowflakes drifted down, melting on her cheeks. She tried to distract herself with work, chores, music, anything. But her thoughts always went back to that night. She missed Ethan. She missed what they had. But she also missed something she had never fully experienced before: being seen, understood, and challenged. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lucas. "Can we talk?" She stared at the words. Her heart raced. She should say no. She should stay home. She should give herself time. But her feet moved before her mind made a decision. Minutes later, she found Lucas at a quiet park bench by the river. Snow covered the ground. His hair was messy from the wind. He looked like someone who hadn't slept much. He stood when he saw her. "I didn't come to make this harder," he said. "I just needed to know if you're okay." The honesty in his voice melted her defenses. "I'm not okay," she whispered. "And it's not your fault. Everything is complicated." Lucas sat, leaving space between them. "I didn't mean to step into your life the way I did," he said. "But when I look at you, I see someone who's been quiet for too long." Claire's eyes filled again. "I don't want to hurt Ethan." "You're not trying to," Lucas replied. "But sometimes the heart wakes up before we're ready." She wiped her tears, trying to breathe normally. He didn't touch her. He didn't try to pull her closer. He just sat there, letting her speak, letting her feel, letting her exist without pressure. For the first time in days, Claire felt calm. "I don't know what happens next," she admitted. Lucas nodded. "Then let your heart catch up. Whatever you choose, it should be yours." The snow kept falling around them, soft and silent. Claire didn't have answers. She didn't have promises. But she finally knew the truth. She needed time. She needed space. She needed to understand herself before she could choose anyone else. And that was the beginning of everything. Approximately 1,000 words. Fast, emotional, mature, clean, only story. No repetition. Safe for YouTube monetization. No explicit content. No violence. No harm. Would you like part 3, 1,000 words next? Here is a clean, emotional, approximately 1,000 word, fast-paced, simple English expansion of part 3. Only story. No repetition. YouTube-safe. Part 3, Love Doesn't Break. It expands 1,000 words, days passed after the night in the park. Claire woke up each morning hoping the confusion would fade, but it didn't. She went to work, answered emails, ate lunch with coworkers, and tried to act normal. Inside, she was fighting her own heart. She missed Ethan. She missed how safe he made her feel. But she also kept thinking about Lucas's honesty, his questions, the way he saw her. For the first time in her life, she wasn't sure who she was without someone beside her. One snowy afternoon, Claire walked home from work with her head down, scarf wrapped tight around her neck. The city was quiet, streets covered in soft white. When she turned the corner toward her apartment, she stopped suddenly. Lucas was standing near her building, hands deep in his pockets, snowflakes in his hair. He looked like he had been waiting for a while. Her breath caught. She didn't know whether to run to him or walk away. Lucas stepped forward slowly. "I know you didn't ask me to come," he said, "but I wanted to make sure you're okay." Claire didn't trust her voice, so she stayed silent. "I'm not here to confuse you," he continued. "I'm not asking you to choose anything. I just needed to see you." There was no pressure in his words. No expectation. Just honesty. "Do you want to take a walk?" Lucas asked. Claire nodded, and the two of them began moving down the sidewalk. They didn't talk at first. The crunch of snow beneath their boots filled the silence. Eventually, Claire found her voice. "I didn't want any of this to happen." "I know," Lucas said softly, "but sometimes life doesn't ask what we're ready for." His words hit her deeply. They stopped at a small bridge overlooking frozen water. Claire leaned on the railing, foggy breath dancing in the cold air. "I hurt Ethan," she whispered. "You were honest," Lucas replied. "Honesty hurts sometimes, but it's not destruction. He doesn't deserve pain." "No one does," Lucas said. "But pretending would have hurt him more." Claire closed her eyes. She knew he was right, but knowing didn't make anything easier. After a long pause, Lucas spoke again. "Whatever you decide for your life, it doesn't have to erase anyone. Love can stay, even if it changes shape." Claire looked up at him. "I don't know what my heart wants." Lucas nodded. "Then don't rush. Most mistakes happen when people rush." Snow continued falling, piling softly on the railing. For the first time in days, Claire felt like she could breathe without breaking. Lucas wasn't trying to pull her toward him. He wasn't trying to take Ethan's place. He was simply there, steady and real. That mattered. When she finally returned to her apartment, Lucas didn't follow. He just smiled gently and said, "Call me if you need anything." Then he walked away, leaving footprints fading behind him. A week later, Claire decided she needed to see Ethan, not to choose him, not to end anything, just to talk. She went to his apartment on a quiet Sunday evening. Her heart pounded as she knocked on the door. Ethan opened it slowly. He looked tired but not angry. His eyes softened when he saw her. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi," he answered. He stepped back and let her inside. The room looked the same as always, warm lights, clean kitchen, soft music playing low. So familiar. They sat on the couch, a small space between them. Not cold, just cautious. "I've been thinking," Claire said. "About us. About everything." Ethan folded his hands. "So have I." She took a deep breath. "I never meant to hurt you." "I know," he said. "But I also saw you come alive around Lucas in a way I haven't seen in a while." Claire's chest tightened. "It wasn't about choosing someone over you. It was about realizing I wasn't choosing myself." Ethan looked at her carefully. "So what do you want now?" That was the question she feared most. But she finally had an answer. "I want to understand who I am before I belong to anyone," she said. "I want to be honest, even if it's hard." Ethan nodded slowly. "I don't want to lose you, Claire. But I also don't want you to stay with me out of comfort." Tears filled her eyes. "You deserve love that's complete." "And so do you," he replied. For a long time they sat in silence. No begging, no accusations. Just two people who cared about each other enough to let truth exist between them. Finally, Ethan reached for her hand. "If this story leads you back to me," he whispered, "I'll be here. And if it doesn't, I hope you find the happiness you're searching for." Claire squeezed his hand, not as a promise, but as gratitude. "Thank you for loving me." He kissed her forehead softly. "Always." That moment didn't feel like a breakup. It didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning, an open door, not a closed one. In the days that followed, Claire didn't run to Lucas. She didn't rush into new feelings or new promises. She gave herself spacewalks in the park, evenings alone, journals filled with messy thoughts. She started painting again, something she had given up years ago. She visited old friends, tried new foods, and even took a short weekend trip alone. For the first time, she was building a life that wasn't defined by someone else's love. When she finally called Lucas, her voice was steady. "Can we meet?" They met in the same park where they had spoken before. Lucas saw her walking toward him and smiled, warm, careful, respectful. "You look lighter," he said. "I feel lighter," Claire replied. "I thought I needed someone to fill the empty spaces in me, but I realized I need to fill them myself." Lucas nodded with quiet pride. "That's the healthiest thing anyone can do." She looked at him, no confusion this time. "I care about you. I can't pretend I don't, but I don't want to rush anything. I want whatever happens to be real." Lucas stepped closer, not touching her, just close enough for his presence to feel steady. "I'll move at your pace, or not at all. What matters is that you're happy." Claire smiled, small but honest. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of her heart. Love wasn't a choice between two men. Love was learning to listen to herself. Maybe she and Ethan would find their way back. Maybe she and Lucas would slowly build something new. Maybe her journey wasn't about endings or beginnings, but growth. The future wasn't clear, but it didn't feel frightening anymore. Claire had learned something powerful. Love doesn't always leave when life changes. Sometimes it just expands, making room for honesty, freedom, self-discovery. She watched snow fall around her as Lucas stood quietly beside her. No pressure, no rushing, just two hearts learning how to move gently. And deep down, she knew the truth. She didn't need just one kind of love in life. She needed love that understood every part of who she was becoming. And now, she finally believed she deserved it. Approximately 1,000 words. Simple English, fast-paced, emotional, no explicit content, no violence. Safe for YouTube monetization, mature romantic tone. Clean and heartfelt if you want. I can now create 5 YouTube-optimized titles. Make a thumbnail text plus short description. Provide 5 image prompts for your video. Just tell me what you'd like next.